Welcome. I'm Spartacris, Generational Gaming and Entertainment. This is episode 6 of my Sunday show, where I pretty much just try to keep everyone up to date on some of the better, or in my opinion, more important announcements that were done throughout the week. We had a big week this week with WandaVision coming to an end. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it. I will just preemptively say I was a little disappointed. I'll go into a full review and kind of, notes and things that are important and stuff to look out for. I understand that the show was setting up phase 4 of the MCU. For me, though, I felt like the show was really firing on all cylinders up until maybe episode 7, and then it started to kind of slow down a little too much and was focused more on giving us more and more questions for Doctor Strange 2, for future Scarlet Witch appearances, and not kind of ending the story that was told in this series. I'll go into a lot more detail about that on Tuesday when I do my review show. Tuesday I will also be talking about WandaVision with full spoilers and details, so make sure you watch before you jump into the show. I'll be talking about You Only Live Twice, which is the next Bond movie on my list down memory lane, and I think this is the last Bond movie with what's his name as Bond. Sean Connery, before they switched to Lazenby. So I'm looking forward to that. I also, just kind of to get right into it, one of the new announcements that my brother actually reminded me about was a movie called Boss Level, kind of like a Groundhog Day action movie. It seems like came out. I believe it's on Hulu, and it's out now. I'm going to be watching that. I'll give my review on that one on Tuesday. Also, Coming to America 2 came out on Friday. I don't know if anyone really thought we needed a sequel to that movie, but it's nice to see Eddie Murphy back in the limelight. Him and Arsenio Hall doing their thing, playing their characters. I wonder if they played some new characters in this movie. Like, I'm excited for it. I want to kind of support it because I would love to see Eddie Murphy get back to his roots. He was one of the funniest guys out there, and he kind of fell off a little bit. I don't know if he cares as much, but I would love to see him back in some big Hollywood blockbusters. So watch that. I'll be talking about that on Tuesday as well. And now, just to get into some of the other announcements, Quiet Place 2. So this was a big, almost like surprise hit for me when the first one came out. I saw it in theaters. I really loved everything about it. The sequel was supposed to come out in September, but they just announced, I think yesterday, that it's moved up to May. My only issue is that it's coming out in theaters, and I don't know if I want to go spend however much money a theater ticket is going to cost by the time people are going back to the theaters. I have a feeling they're going to want to make up some of the money they lost, so I'm not too excited about that, to be honest. But Emily Blunt is one of my Hollywood crushes, and John Krasinski, let's just be honest, is a Hollywood crush also, so I'm excited for this movie. The trailer looked pretty good, and the first one was kind of a good original concept, done really well, so I'm excited for the second one. And now I want to talk more. There's a lot of Marvel updates, so I want to kind of get into these Marvel updates real quick. First things first, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be coming out March. It's literally in 2 weeks. I believe March 19th, or maybe March 17th. So we don't have a big break between WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. From what I understand, the show looks like it's going to be much more action heavy than WandaVision was. It also is, I believe, taking place at the same time as WandaVision. I don't think it's going to be as much of a mystery kind of setup show as WandaVision was. I think this is going to specifically deal with the fallout of not having Captain America, Steve Rogers around, and whether Sam Wilson is worthy to take over the Captain America mantle. We all know that by the end of it, he will, unless Marvel wants to surprise us somehow. I like Zemo's look. He's coming back. There are going to be, Sharon Carter, I think, is going to be back in the show. I think we're going to be in for some other kind of surprise cameos from characters that were side characters in random movies throughout the first 3 phases of the MCU. And they're coming back in this one. It basically is going to deal with the fallout of Endgame. Specifically the fallout of Endgame, as in how losing some of the biggest heroes of the Avengers are how that affects the world, essentially. Where WandaVision almost sets her up on an arc to prevent herself to become a villain. I think this show is going to be more about who's going to step up to be the next leaders of the next set of Avengers. It seems very much like Marvel is setting up a young Avengers. I don't know if they're meant to take over as the main Avengers squad, or if they're going to be a separate group of heroes that runs kind of at the same time, or if the Avengers were like, Squad A, maybe they'll be Squad B. But they're clearly setting it up, and just as like a segue, Falcon and Winter Soldier is. I've been saying it for a while. We're getting a lot of Marvel stuff this year, and next year. They're clearly giving us everything they wanted to in 2020, along with whatever was already coming out in 2021 and 2022. So they are. I'm putting up right now on the screen. This is the Marvel release schedule. There is a lot of stuff coming out, as you could see, and we're just kind of just beginning to see the beginning. We're just kind of getting into the thick of it here, let's say. So just on the show side, WandaVision just ended, and I think most of us pretty much watched that already. Right after WandaVision, now we got March 19th is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Loki is coming out in May, so Loki is coming with the Time Bureau. Essentially, it's the cops that make sure nobody messes with time too much. Nobody goes back and forth and screws with our timeline. Owen Wilson will be making his MCU debut. He's more of a comedic character, so I guess he'll bring the comedy, while Loki's more of the action or the hero. I don't know if they're trying to almost like redo Loki's anti-hero redemption kind of arc. The Loki that we're getting in this show is very much a villain. He was the bad guy from the first Avengers movie, and the Loki we got used to is the one that lost his mom. This Loki didn't, so he lost his mom in Thor: The Dark World, and then he kind of comes to terms or an agreement or respect or however you want to call it with his brother in Thor: Ragnarok, and then fights to stop Thanos and loses his life for it in Avengers: Infinity War. So this Loki has only essentially just found out that he is not Odin's son, that he's actually a frost giant. He just got his ass whooped by his brother, his plan stopped by his brother, and what he thought was his throne taken away from him by his brother, and then dropped off the Rainbow Bridge. And as far as he knows, as far as everyone else knew, he disappeared until he showed up again after meeting Thanos and getting an army and trying to take over Earth. That's the Loki we're getting. We got to remember that. So he's starting off the show very much as a villain, as a bad guy out for just himself. After the Loki show, we're getting almost like a break from the big MCU timeline with a show called What If. So some of my favorite comics growing up were What If comics. They were essentially stories that had nothing to do or no connection to anything going on in like the main MCU or comic book timeline. They were just like, what if this happened? Or what if this took place? One of my favorite comic books is actually called What If Wolverine Became King of the Vampires? And the whole comic book is he basically gets turned into a vampire because of his, his healing factor. He somehow adapts immediately, kills Dracula, and then just goes ahead and turns as many mutants as he can, as many heroes as he can in the comic book world into vampires. Doctor Strange reaches out to the Punisher and basically says, I'm going to help you out and you got to take them all down. So the Punisher starts doing the whole crosses on the bullets, holy water bombs, and it's just an all-out war, the Punisher versus every comic book hero you can think of. Great comic book. I always love the story. I would love if they did something like that, but they obviously haven't introduced Wolverine yet, so who knows. Based off the trailer for the What If show, though, they're basically telling the story of Peggy Carter becoming Captain America instead of Steve Rogers. We're gonna get another performance from Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. They're showing the Marvel Zombies comic book. They're basically gonna have an episode about that. Jeffrey Wright is playing the Watcher, which really he doesn't need much makeup. He kind of looks the right part. But he is going to essentially be telling these stories and letting us know what if things were changed, which is just, I think, is a great concept. And it does give us a nice little break from the constant, like, how does this connect? And what does that name mean? And this name drop? And look in the background, there's like a speck in the back. If you zoom in, it's probably something. We're not going to have to deal with that for at least that course of the show. Later on in 2021, we're getting Miss Marvel, who is, if you've played the Avengers video game that came out recently, she is the main character of that game. She's basically one of the first young Avenger characters that we're going to be introduced to. She's basically like an Avengers fangirl who develops her own powers. Now, in the comics, her powers and tie into the Inhumans, which will lead into a movie coming out. So she might make it. I think she might be jumping from the show to the Eternals movie. I'll give you the release date for that, or maybe from the Eternals movie to the show. But it all kind of ties in. After her is Hawkeye. It's been confirmed that Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, is going to be handing down the Hawkeye mantle to his daughter, Kate Bishop. And she's being played by a famous actor, singer, whatever her name is. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'll put all the information in there, but that's another potential young Avenger taking over the Hawkeye name. Later, so then that's it for 2021 as far as the shows go. Then we go into 2022. We're getting She-Hulk. It's been confirmed that Mark Ruffalo will be coming back as Hulk in that movie. I'm pretty sure Thunderbolt Ross is going to be in it also. She-Hulk is essentially in the comics Hulk's cousin, and while she gets big and green, it's not as drastic of a transformation as Hulk, and she still retains her intelligence. So now we have Smart Hulk going to be a part of She-Hulk. I'm assuming it's going to be something where maybe there's an experiment that goes wrong or something like that, but he kind of knows how to combine the brain and the brawn because he did it already, and he just kind of helps her transition quickly. After She-Hulk, we got Moon Knight. Oscar Isaac is playing the main character in Moon Knight. He's kind of a psycho in the comic books, but he is an anti-hero. He's a little bit more vicious. Since it's staying on Disney Plus, we're not going to get any R-rated violence or anything like that. But he's basically a hero with some mental issues, and that's something that Marvel really hasn't done before. Besides, I guess Deadpool, who's not a part of the MCU, but he's psychotic too. So. That's going to be an interesting show. They haven't announced too much about it besides Oscar Isaac being in it. Then in 2022, we got Secret Invasion, which is starring Nick Fury, and Monica Rambeau, I believe, is going to be a part of that. So spoilers for anyone who didn't watch WandaVision season finale, but at the end of it, there's a post-credit scene. It's the first one of two, where Monica essentially is asked to step into the theater. She thinks she's being, I guess, maybe a debriefing or something like that. And it turns out the agent that asked her is a Skrull. The Skrulls were the shape-shifting aliens from Captain Marvel. They ended up being good guys and friends with Nick Fury. At the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, it turns out that Nick Fury and Maria Hill in that movie were actually Skrulls in disguise. And the real Nick Fury is in a base in space that fans of the comic books know is generally the Sword base. So I'm wondering if he's basically just heard kind of what happened with Hayward in the WandaVision show, and maybe Monica is going to be helping him run the base in space. But Secret Invasion in the comic books was about Skrulls slowly and quietly infiltrating some of the most powerful positions on Earth, presidents and dictators and whatever, and trying to essentially take over. And so I guess in this show, it'll be about Nick Fury, Mendelsohn, I can't remember his first name, Ben Mendelsohn, I think, who played one of the Talos, the main Skrull from Captain Marvel, is in it also. And I guess Monica Rambeau. It's going to be about them trying to locate and stop this threat from taking over Earth. After that, in 2022, we get Marvel's Ironheart, which is about the fallout of not having Iron Man with his iron suit. It's about other enemies developing their own Iron Man suits. Riri, I forget her last name now, but she's the character who in the comics, she's a young girl, African-American girl, I believe, who essentially builds her own Iron Man armor and becomes the new Iron Man. She proves that she's worthy of that title. And she's going to essentially do that in this one. So that's a new Iron Man now, again, for another young Avenger. That's going to lead into Armor Wars, which is going to be War Machine's show, and it's all about, that's going to be more specifically about other villains or terrorists or whatever developing their own Iron Man armor. So where she's going to be about building her own armor, kind of earning the right to be the next Iron Man. I 100% think that she's going to also go right into Armor Wars, where maybe her and War Machine are going to be fighting to protect the world from some bad guys having their own Iron Man armor. So there's a lot there. I Am Groot, an animated show. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm not super excited about this. I love Groot. Don't get me wrong. Groot is super cute and blah, blah, blah. But do we need a whole show about him? This is very much for the kids. I feel like maybe this is another kind of break in the MCU madness. But, we're going to be following young Groot. And I believe this is going to be like teenage Groot. It just doesn't, I don't know. I don't really see the point, if I'm being honest. Then we get looks like at the end of 2022, a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. So this is why I'm not really excited for I Am Groot. Why wouldn't whatever they're going to do with him be a part of the holiday special with Guardians of the Galaxy? You're getting the whole Guardians back for their own holiday special. It's not 100% clear if the holiday special is a show of, a bunch of episodes, if it's just one 1 hour special for the holidays or what, but it is a Guardians of the Galaxy property coming straight to Disney Plus, specifically for that service. That is everything they've announced for the shows, and we got a lot of movies coming out. So this year we got the Black Widow movie finally coming out. As of right now, it's still coming out in theaters. It looks like it's going to stay that way. Honestly, for Marvel movies, I'm going to go see it in theaters. I'll figure out a way to do it. It's worth it. And Black Widow deserves as much fan support as she can get. It's heavily rumored that at the end of that movie, there will be a new Black Widow in the MCU. Whether it's Scarlett Johansson somehow coming back from the dead or what, we don't know. But there will be another Black Widow at the end of that movie. That's the big rumor. After that, July 9th of this year, this is one of the ones that I am most excited for, is ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm excited for this for many reasons. I am a huge martial arts fan. I love a lot of martial arts movies. And this movie is a martial arts character. I was excited for the Iron Fist show because I knew he was martial arts kind of driven. That was a big focus of the show. They kind of dropped the ball in season 1 of Iron Fist. They picked it up a lot in season 2, but I still never felt, even by the end of season 2 in Defenders, that the fight scenes really carried the weight of the martial arts they were showing. Now we got a full movie budget, I should say, in this movie coming. We have a lot of great martial artists from just the world of cinema in this movie. It's a big focus on it. I'm very excited for it. They're gonna show us the real Mandarin. So in case anyone's not aware, Iron Man 3, they talked about the Mandarin played by Ben Kingsley. It turned out that his character in that movie was just an actor being hired to portray the Mandarin. And by the end of that movie, we thought that the Mandarin or the name Mandarin was just made up, and Aldrich Killian just kind of used it as a front. There's in the Thor, the Dark World, I believe there's something called a Marvel One Shot, which was like a quick, small 10-minute video shot with Trevor Slattery, which was the character from Iron Man 3 who played the Mandarin, in prison, being approached and essentially being told that the real Mandarin is not happy that he used his name and tried to pretend to be him. All these years later, we're going to see the real Mandarin. And we're going to see him with the 10 rings, which was a big disappointment for Iron Man 3. We're going to see him in a martial arts movie. It's an all-Asian cast and all-Asian production behind the scenes. I'm pumped for this one. I think this is going to be phenomenal. Martial arts movies need to blow up in the States. And I'm excited for it. This could be it. Now, after that, November 5th of this year is The Eternals. So this is a Kumail Nanjiani, Salma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, a whole bunch of people. I'm going to go through the full cast list at a later date, but this movie is going to tie into Ms. Marvel. This is essentially, they're like the oldest heroes that have been, or not heroes, I guess superpowered people living on Earth. Something I believe is going to be all the snaps is going to cause them to decide we need to make ourselves known. Not a ton is known about the movie. I know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff was that the pitch for the movie was very unique and is going to stand out. The style of movie is going to stand out. And Kumail Nanjiani became the sexiest man alive because he was hired for this movie. I'm excited for it because it sounds like a unique idea, unique property. However, we still haven't seen any trailers. They just recently released the kind of a cast photo, which everyone looks good, but it's clearly like a hand-drawn thing. It's more of a concept, so it doesn't really show too much. But we'll get into that again at a later date. December of this year, Marvel's just kind of constantly throwing things at us, is the next Spider-Man movie. The next Spider-Man movie, they just announced the name, and I believe it was Home Wrecked. I'm gonna Google this so I can get it right. But I understand a lot of people are tired. They were tired, I should say, of the reboots and all that stuff. No Way Home, that's the next movie. I understand a lot of people were tired of the reboots. They were tired of, they feel like there's almost been too many Spider-Men in the last a couple of years. However, Tom Holland, I think, is by far the best Spider-Man. He plays the Peter Parker side great. He plays the hero great. Spider-Man Far From Home and Homecoming were fun movies, excellent movies. They were more grounded. This one, I think, is not going to be as grounded. We know that this is going to tie into WandaVision. We also know that this is going to tie into Doctor Strange and the Universe of Madness. Actually, I believe, Spider-Man is supposed to be this year. So there's been heavily rumored that it's going to be essentially the Spider-Verse story in live action in MCU. A lot of rumors of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back to play their versions of Spider-Man in this movie. We know that Morbius is a Fox-owned Marvel movie that's coming out. And in that movie, it's supposed to tie in to our Spider-Man. Michael Keaton is in that movie as his version of the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming. So we know that Jamie Foxx is reprising his role as Electro in this next in Spider-Man No Way Home. We know that Doc Ock is coming. Alfred Molina is playing the same Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. He's one of the villains in this one. I know we have Matt Gargan who made a cameo in Spider-Man Homecoming, and they haven't tied into that yet, but that's the Scorpion, so he's probably going to show up. And it has been confirmed that Michael Keaton will be reprising his role as Adrian Toomes and Vulture in this movie. So Sinister Six is clearly coming, and what better reason to need more than one Spider-Man if you have to face 6 supervillains who have all dealt with Spider-Man before, and now they're working together to do some damage. That is going to be, I know they're not doing an Avengers movie, but I'm telling you, this next Spider-Man movie is going to be an Avengers-style movie. I'm super excited for it for that reason, and if you haven't seen Spider-Verse, I believe it's still on Netflix. One of the best animated movies you'll ever watch. One of the best Spider-Man movies that have ever come out. Go watch that movie. Then, after that, we get a little bit of a break, focus more on the shows, and in March of 2022 is Doctor Strange 2 in the Universe of Madness. Now, WandaVision is tying into Spider-Man. WandaVision also is tying into Doctor Strange 2. WandaVision, definitely the Hex and whatever magic she used, the chaos magic, is coming from other dimensions or multiverses or universes. Doctor Strange's whole thing is about protecting the universes and keeping our universe intact. He's going to have a lot of work to do without Infinity Stones. This movie is gonna, Scarlet Witch is going to be in this movie. She's a main player in it. They're going to be going to other universes. I really feel that by the end of this movie, we're going to know what the major storyline is going to be for Phase 4 and Phase 5. We're going to see what they're building towards. I don't think they're going to wait 10 years to finish that storyline. I would say by the end of Phase 5, they're probably going to be done with that storyline, and we're going to be focused on mutants and the X-Men and so on. But this is going to be another one. I think it's going to be maybe not as epic as Spider-Man No Way Home, but it's going to be a big movie, and there's going to be a lot going on. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear some surprise actors that are going to be in the movie, characters from other shows, and again, it might be more of other movie, and it might be more of an Avengers-style thing. May 6th, 2022. Thor Love and Thunder. So this is Thor 4. Chris Hemsworth is back. We're getting Natalie Portman's character as Jane Foster back. She will be holding Mjolnir, the hammer. She will be harnessing the power of Thor in that movie. She's already confirmed that her character is essentially fighting cancer, and because of that's how it happens in the comic books. In order to kind of keep her alive, she's imbued with the power of Thor. Now, there is no hammer in our timeline. So at the end of Avengers Endgame, Captain America returns the stones, and he returns the hammer. So she doesn't have a hammer. I wonder if that means she's going to be controlling the axe, Stormbreaker. Who knows what's going to happen? Clearly, I think by the time Doctor Strange is done with the universes, all of a sudden we're going to have our own version of Mjolnir. I don't know what's going on, but she's confirmed she'll be holding the hammer. So I'm curious to know what's going to happen there. Taika Waititi is directing, so it's going to have a similar feel to Thor Ragnarok, which in my opinion is one of the best MCU movies to date. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be good. Black Panther 2 coming out July of 2022. Very little has been talked about with this movie. The only real information we've gotten is that there's going to be a Wakanda TV series coming to Disney Plus by Ryan Coogler. I'm assuming this movie is going to tie into that somehow. But they haven't really given us a release date for the show. No one knows what they're going to do with the character of Black Panther, with T'Challa in particular. Chadwick Boseman passing was unexpected and sad, and who knows what they're going to do. I'm sure the movie is a big deal, so I'm sure they're going to be taking it seriously, and they're going to really take into account his family, his friends, make it respectful. But as much as I wasn't the biggest fan of the first Black Panther, the character is an important character. I'm excited for the show. I'm excited for the movie. That's July 8th, 2022. Then we go into November of 2022, Captain Marvel 2. So this was one of the slower movies in the MCU, I felt. I don't understand why everyone hates on Brie Larson. I thought she did a great job in the movie. It had its moments. I think the special effects got a little out of hand at the end of the movie. It just wasn't up to snuff with the rest of the Marvel stuff. But now we don't have to deal with explaining her origins. We can go right into her just doing her thing, saving galaxies and planets and whatever. So I'm sure she's going to be going at it with the Kree army still. I imagine Ronin is going to be coming back, depending on the timeline, the time frame that this takes place in. The first one was the 90s. So I don't know if they're going to kind of shoot this one up to be modern times, or if they're going to maybe do the 2000s or something before Avengers. Who knows what they're going to do. Then in 2023, we get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is another one I'm super excited for. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies are, again, some of the top tier movies. That's like Marvel firing on all cylinders. Chris Pratt is one of the best heroes and leading men in the MCU. I feel like that's still around. Him and Chris Hemsworth are top dogs in my opinion. Drax, Gamora. This one's going to be looking for Gamora. So for anyone who hasn't kept up, at the end of Endgame, the Gamora from before she became a Guardian is now alive and running around in our timeline. Now, remember, though, by the time this movie comes out, we've already gone through Spider-Man No Way Home, and we've gone through Doctor Strange 2 in particular. Things can change. Doctor Strange is going to be in the multiverse. They're going to be making changes. Things are going to be happening. So who knows? But at the end of Guardians 2, Adam Warlock was teased, and it almost seemed like he was going to be sent on almost like a bounty hunter mission to get the Guardians. And then they're also going to be looking for, Gamora. And I forgot to mention in Thor Love and Thunder, Chris Pratt and the Guardians are going to be, at least in the beginning of that movie, so I don't know how that's going to tie into Volume 3. But I'm excited for that too, and that's going to be awesome. I hope Sylvester Stallone comes back to play his character and he has a bigger role in Guardians 3. Then in 2023, we're supposed to get the new Blade. Mahershala Ali, I think is how you say it. Ali is playing the new Blade. I am a huge fan of Wesley Snipes' Blade. In my opinion, it's hard to see anybody else playing the character, especially from Blade 1 and 2. I have all the faith in the world in MCU. Mahershala Ali is an unbelievable actor. I'm a little concerned that right now Blade is not going to be rated R, only because part of what made the first two movies cool was the R rating. It was edgy, it was dark. I can't really imagine Blade with the pop of color and the humor and stuff from that are in the MCU at this point, but I'll give him a chance. The character's cool, and I don't know if it's gonna tie into Morbius at all, but Morbius technically is a vampire, and Blade ain't got no time for vampires, so we'll see what happens there. Also in 2023 is Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania. So I'm assuming that means they're going to be exploring the quantum realm. It's already been confirmed that in that movie, Cassie Lang, which was Paul Rudd's character's daughter, she was aged up in Avengers Endgame, and she's going to be almost inheriting the Ant-Man suit or the Ant-Man powers. So again, another young Avenger ready to go. They haven't released any other information about that besides the title. But we got that to look forward to. Again, those are good movies. Those were never some giant stakes movies, but they were fun movies to watch. And then to round out 2023 and Phase 4 is going to be the reboot of the Fantastic Four. So I pretty much enjoyed the first two Fantastic Four movies. They definitely were silly. They definitely could have used a lot of improvement. But this was from a time when comic book movies were only campy and silly and fun. So they kind of fit the mold. They were just starting to take them a little bit more seriously. However, the special effects do not hold up well. Besides Johnny Storm, the rest of the characters, they just don't look that great. I am excited for Marvel, for MCU, with an MCU budget and a Disney budget and Disney backing to do their own version. They're going to take it seriously. They're going to have plans for multiple movies. The first family of the MCU is going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think, and I don't think it's a accident that it's one of the last movies coming out in 2023 or one of the last movies for Phase 4. That's going to set up some major things. They haven't announced yet any story details, any actors. You know, they need to do Doom the right way, but maybe they don't need to introduce him in the first movie. There's plenty of characters they can introduce in the comic books. But that's the full list of Phase 4. Now, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of characters, a lot of new storylines, a lot of intros, a lot of origin stories. And it's hard to keep up with everything. So what I am going to do as like a new show announcement for the YouTube is I'm going to go movie by movie, show by show, starting with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The first part of it will be coming out this week, sometime after Tuesday, probably Thursday, I would say. But I want to do a deep dive into all these shows, all these characters. MCU prep Phase 4. I want to give you as much information as I can. So if you don't have time to go read those comics or familiarize yourself with what may have happened already in the MCU or what might happen or how they'll tie in, at least I'll give you a quick synopsis and kind of catch you up to speed as soon as possible. I will be, like I said, the first part of that will be this week. And then the goal is one part a week, every single week going forward until I get through all of them. And then, you know, at the same time, we'll be watching Falcon and Winter Soldier together and we'll be talking about it. Let me know. Thank you for jumping into the Sunday show. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. I'm here every Sunday with the updates in the entertainment world, and every Tuesday I'm live streaming and putting on a show with all my reviews of all the Marvel stuff, the DC stuff. I'm going to be talking about The Flash in the coming weeks, and I'm going to be talking about the new Superman show in the coming weeks. I feel like I'm missing stuff. Don't forget also Justice League is coming out in like a week or two. It's a 4-hour thing. And just as a quick opinion on that, I feel like, I don't know, I'm a little worried that it's going to be too much and it's not going to be great. I will watch it though, because, you know, why not? And you know, I'll be talking about that on my review show and kind of squeezing in more and more stuff. The Generational Gaming Entertainment Network is going to be full-blown launching very soon. So, you know, keep an eye out. We're going to be throwing a lot of content out there. Check out all the other guys, The Captain, One Shot, and ScytheX. A lot of streaming games, Call of Duty. I saw ScytheX streaming some Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the NES the other day. He got beat by, what's his name? Not Honda. Oh, yeah, Honda. He's one of the first bosses. He's the fourth fight in, and he freaking got his ass whipped. So I don't understand what his problem is. But listen, Scythe, if you're watching this and you need some help with Punch-Out, I know all the tricks of the trade. I'll come in, I'll train you. I'll be your little guy in the pink suit while you're jogging behind me. Check out everyone on the Generational Gaming Entertainment Network. I will be back on Tuesday with more of a deep dive into WandaVision and the other movies I mentioned. And as always, I will see you next Tuesday.